My name is Kevin Oppermann. I'm the owner of Highland Spring Farm in the town of Dunn, just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. We raise Scottish Highland cattle and sell to area farmers markets, restaurants, and at our farm store. When someone comes up to our table, the question we often get asked is, what do I want? And so we get a lot of questions about just what type of cut the person wants, which I always think is such a funny question, that somebody knows that they want meat, but they don't necessarily know what they want. So that's always question number one. Question number two is what in the world are these hairy beasts that you have? Because we have Scottish Highlands and they're long hair and big horns, they don't look like your conventional cattle. And then the third question that we get is just how do you raise your animal, and our animal husbandry and animal welfare practices and we explain that they have a really good life and just that one bad day. We get a lot of questions about the way we raise our cattle. Primarily the customers at farmers markets certainly want it to taste good. That's their number one concern, but the questions that they ask are how we raise our animals. Are they stuck in a feedlot for their entire lives, or are they out on pasture? What kind of life do they have? We tell them that the cattle move daily and that we are giving the cattle fresh pasture every day so that they can eat what's best. We explain it somewhat as a salad bar, that the cattle will go to the salad bar and they just want to eat the ice cream plants, but we force them to eat their vegetables too. And so by giving them just the amount of area that they can eat in one day, that helps the cattle eat everything, but it also helps our pastures improve too, so that the good plants, or the most desirable plants, aren't eaten to the ground, while the weeds and the less desirable plants are allowed to flourish. By having those cattle clear everything and then move on and give that pasture plenty of rest, we're able to improve the amount of cattle that we're able to have in a particular pasture. We're able to graze longer throughout the season, which is great for us and great for the cattle in the land, that they don't have to eat stockpiled forages, and it just works out really well for our system. And so I think that's when we start telling that story and talking to people about that, it brings up a whole variety of questions. Isn't that a lot of work? Why do you do that? Is that what everybody does? And it's not. It's not necessarily something that everybody does, but it's something that we are big advocates for and try to encourage other farmers to do, because in the long run, we believe it's easier and it's better for the land and it's better for the cattle. When we talk about the way we graze, we certainly are doing things differently than a lot of farmers in the area or around the country do. One of the ways that we got started was that we put out cattle just out in the pasture. And then we were finding that we were feeding hay from September through May, and we were only grazing for a few months out of the year. We started researching and trying to figure out a better way, because feeding hay is very time intensive all summer long, making the hay, and then all winter long feeding the hay. So we got involved and started learning about rotational grazing. And then by rotating, we were able to extend our graze time over the year, to the point where now we only feed hay for 3 or 4 months out of the year, depending on the year, and feed hay and graze the rest of the time. A lot of farmers around the country, I think, just turn their cattle out, and when they graze everything, it's done, and then they start feeding hay. And it's certainly easy in the sense that you don't have to spend a lot of time with the cattle, but we like being out with the cattle and seeing them every day. They're ready to move. When we go out there in the afternoon to move fences, they're ready to go, and it seems like the cattle really enjoy it too. I think there's a lot of motivators for why someone might choose to buy our beef. Certainly the story and the way that we raise our animals is important to people, but it's got to taste good too. And so it's great to have a good story, and it's great to have interesting looking animals and raise them the right way. But if it doesn't taste good, then people aren't coming back. And so because our product tends to be higher priced than a lot of our competitors at the farmers market, we're not competing on price. We're really competing on animal welfare and on the taste. And I think that the way we raise our animals and by rotating and giving them all that time out on pasture to get fat on the grasses that we're able to grow here, that's what drives that flavor and that texture that people come back for.